welcome back to the Merck Method, where we explore mental wellness, growth, and the human experience. I want to just thank everybody for coming onto the podcast today. I appreciate all of you listening, of course. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about a topic that I'm not sure how many people will want to listen to this. Maybe everyone. I have no idea. But this one's really close to the chest, obviously, and I've mentioned it before in, maybe not the podcast necessarily, but I've definitely talked about it to my friends and family. And really, I want to talk about the topic of how God really saved me from myself. And I think it's very important to kind of shed some light on this because I know that there's people that feel the same way or might be stuck and aren't sure where they're at on this topic. So hopefully this is a positive influence on you. So there's going to be some personal stuff. Obviously, this isn't going to be a Bible study group podcast, but I just want to share some things that have happened in the course of my lifetime up until this point and really just give credit where credit is due. Growing up, going to Catholic school and going to church every day during the week, God's everywhere. And no pun intended. Sometimes we went to church on Sundays. It wasn't every Sunday, but as a family, we would still, try to go as much as we could. But my dad, not being religious like that, would actually still go. He just wouldn't participate, and that was fine too. He was just going to support us. And I understood early how God really had his hand in everything from my perspective. But then as I grew older, I let the foot off the gas of going to church. So I kind of lost myself. I lost how strong my faith was. I mean, it was always there. I believed in him. I prayed all the time. And it wasn't just as strong as I thought or should have been. And then I met my wife and, really started to go back to the way I felt it was with God because we would go to church, more so than I was actually going to before I met her. And her family was going to church. I would go with. My family would still kind of go to church every once in a while, but really with my wife, we would go and then we had kids and then we would go. And my kids ended up going to Catholic school. As a matter of fact, my daughter is still in Catholic school. My son is still in Catholic school. And in between that time, I kind of like lost myself for numerous reasons. It wasn't just the fact that I wasn't going to church, but I lost myself in a lot of different ways. And sometimes when I actually went to church, I almost felt guilty because I was like, I wasn't going to church a lot before this. And then all of a sudden I'm starting to go a little more frequently, but it wasn't how I felt it should be. So I was kind of like teeter-tottering back and forth. God was always there, not in the capacity that I felt really that he should have been. But again, I still felt guilty for not going all the time. And I know that there's people that don't go to church constantly, and it's fine. They pray a lot of times when they need help or guidance. I do this all the time, but now, I pray every day at some kind of capacity. And it really strengthened maybe 10 years ago. But it's really solidified itself like recently. So the things that I used to worry about before and things up until this point now, I have given him total control because I have seen it firsthand that I am not molding this path. This path has already been laid for me. And it's better for me to understand that than to try to fight it because I don't have that control. I just have to go with whatever is dealt with because that's part of the process. Yes, my father passing away was part of this process. I can say that clearly now. It doesn't make it any easier that he is gone, but it also makes me feel better that he is part of my purpose. When I try to talk to people about my beliefs and everything else. I don't know how they're going to take it because everyone is different, right? It's almost like politics. God, on the other hand, I will talk to as soon as you start talking to me about it. I will tell you the signs that I've gotten because realistically, a while back, I was ready to go wherever he's at or wherever my dad's at or wherever my cousin is at. And God wasn't done with me yet. I mean, I've started this podcast, I've gone back to school. I mean, it's apparently I have a bigger purpose. And I didn't just come up with this. This was already laid out for me because I'm supposed to be helping other people understand their purpose. And that's how God shows through me. So I actually have a guest today, my daughter Lauren, and she's going to talk a little bit more about God and why it's important to her. Say hi, Lauren.
Hey, friends.
All right, so I'm going to ask Lauren some questions about God, and we're going to see what she says. All right, Lauren, when do you feel closest to God?
I feel closest to God when I'm at church. One of the reasons is when we worship at the start. I say this because I feel more open to learning the ways of God. Another reason is you can feel the presence even if you're just sitting down. Listening to the pastor preach is like lifting a weight off your chest. You walk into church not knowing what to expect, but they always answer a question you might think about daily. God is with everyone always, but especially at his house.
Well, that was a really good answer. I loved how you were very honest and open about that question. So let me give you another one. Lauren, what do you love most about who God is?
So, what I love most about God is that he is super genuine. He's always there if we need prayer. He also died on the cross for our sins. That's a really big thing. He always forgives. God is super loving as well.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. I feel that God is always watching over our family and that he's always protecting us, don't you think?
I agree 100%.
And don't you think if we're really struggling with something that you, me, your mom, Evan, we always try to pray on things and just let God do what he does best?
Yeah, I feel like we should always turn to God.
All right, Lowell. So I got another question for you. How about this one? Has there been a time when you feel like God helped you or showed up for you?
There was a time where I felt like I was at my lowest, thinking I shouldn't even be here anymore. I woke up the next day knowing God woke me up for a reason.
God definitely woke you up for a reason, and everyone that knows you, including your mother and I, understand that you have a purpose. And I'm glad, obviously, that God woke you up and will continue to wake you up because you are going to make a difference in this world, and that's because of Him. And to just piggyback off of that, before I ask Lauren her next question, that was one of the things I was talking about was that everyone is here for a purpose. We don't choose our time here. He does. We don't have the stopwatch. We don't have the control of how long we're going to be here. So we don't know. So we need to use every day as a time to share the gifts and purpose that we have with other people. Okay, Lo, this is a good question. What's one thing you believe about God that makes you feel safe?
I know God is always there through thick and thin. When everything is in his hands, he has the best control over everything. God makes things happen for a reason, and we shouldn't be scared knowing he does.
And you're right. It's easier to have Him take control of things that we can't control. And just knowing that He has our back through everything really makes us have a safe space that really everyone should have. So I agree with that answer 100%. Good job on that one, girl. All right, so I got one more question I think that we can ask Lauren today in this little collab. If someone asked you why you love God, what would you tell them?
If someone asked me why I love God, I would say it all started when I was younger. I say this because I grew up being a Catholic, being baptized, Not knowing what it meant, but growing up now, learning more about God opened another door of understanding.
It's a good answer, Lo. And we don't know everything about God when we first start off. And that's the one thing about just continuously learning about Him as we go. Anything else that you love about God?
I also love God because he truly helps other people that are struggling with everyday issues and problems. When I pray to God, I can tell he answers my prayer. Not every prayer is going to be answered the way you would like it though. But we have to trust that he knows what's best for us.
I agree with that too, that He really does do things for a reason, good, bad, and indifferent, right?
Yeah.
But we do have to trust that process. And we learn little by little when we go to church, right, as a family, and just understand that He is doing what is best for us. And we have to let that process play out. All right, so I really loved having my daughter on here for my first collab podcast. So take note because this is going to be kind of the start of things to come. But I want to ask Lo, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners for today's podcast?
Just remember to stay awesome, stay cool, and trust in the Lord. Also, guys, follow me on TikTok at lolo.talks.a lot. I usually post random videos of me like talking, get ready with me's, and I did some reviews and hauls.
All right, so if you didn't hear that correctly, if you want to follow Lolo on TikTok, it's Lolo, Lolo dot talks, Talks dot a lot. Make sure to go check out some good content on Lolo's page. Okay, thanks, Lauren, for making an appearance on my podcast today. If you want to say bye to all my followers,
Bye, guys. God bless and Godspeed.
well, there's my Lolo, everybody. Her mother and I are extremely proud of the person she is becoming and continues to better herself in every way. And we will continue to support her as much as we possibly can. So, as I start to wrap things up for today, I just want to go back over how God really just gives us purpose and hope. You can hear it in Lauren's comments and the answers to her questions that it's something that you feel. When you're at your lowest point and you don't know where else to go, you look up. And that's where He is. And again, it doesn't have to be for everybody, but it is for a lot of people. When the world seems uncertain, God remains steady. His word reminds us that our story is still being written. That gives us that hope, that purpose. When we're following God, we don't have to have everything figured out, right? You just need a willing heart. Whether you pray a little bit or a lot, it's okay either way. Whether you're strong in the faith or barely holding on, God still sees you and He's ready to walk with you in the life that you have. Just remember, God is important in our lives because He gives us purpose, that peace and foundation to stand on when everything else kind of feels uncertain. In a world full of all this change and pressure and pain, God remains constant to us, offering that unconditional love, His forgiveness, and hope. He definitely reminds us that you are not alone and our lives have meaning beyond what we can actually see, and that we are deeply known and valued. When we walk with Him, we experience a sense of direction and comfort. His presence fills that emptiness that we have sometimes. It quiets that fear and gives us the courage to keep going even when life hits us in the face. Let Him in. All right, as I close this episode, remember this: God isn't just important, He's essential. He's that steady hand that life gets shaky, the voice of truth when the world gets loud, and the source of peace that doesn't fade when circumstances change. You were never meant to walk this life alone. Wherever you are in your journey, whether you're confident in your faith or still searching, and that's okay too, God is near and He cares deeply for you. I promise. Just keep seeking Him, keep talking to Him, and keep letting His love shape your life in some way, shape, or form. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast today and listening to my daughter on why God is important to her and really why God is important in general. And like always, when I leave you with this. Stay grounded, stay kind to yourself, and remember, strength begins with honesty. Until next time.